Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I have another dream for you, and this one was really neat because it had a title. It was called The End of the End, and it was so encouraging, at least for me, so I hope you're blessed by it too. I'll be really brief because I gotta go leave in like 10 minutes to go get my son from school and my daughter, so I'll be really brief. But in the first part of the dream, I won't get into too much detail about that because it dealt with talking to my husband and kind of having regrets about what happened and wishing things had worked out better and feeling sadness about all that. And so anyhow, I moved on from that part and I ended up at this ski lodge with my mom and sister. It's like this all-inclusive place with shops, restaurants. It had a mall. It had like 2 hotels, and it was really a neat place. If this were real, it would be really cool. They'd clean up. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar idea. Anybody out there that's thinking about investing in something? Well, just kidding. So anyhow, I ended up there. We were having lunch, and then my friend and her mom walked up to us. We hadn't seen them in a while. We were like, "Oh, what are you guys doing here?" We're chit-chatting and stuff, and my friend didn't seem like herself. She seemed like she was hiding something, but she just didn't seem like herself. She seemed really down, and she looked ill, like just I could tell something was wrong. So anyhow, she and her mom left, and my mom and sister and I were talking about how concerned we were about her and hoping that she was okay. And right then I saw this crowd of people come, like walking. It was not a huge crowd. I'd say maybe like 15 to 20 people, and they were walking, following someone, but I couldn't see who they were following. So I excused myself from the table to go see what was going on. And when I left them, I went to the crowd and I was able to kind of peer through, and I saw it was Jesus. I was kind of poking my head around and I saw him. I was like, "Oh, there's Jesus." And he'd walk up to some inconspicuous place and pull out a piece of paper, and it had these gifts on it. There were things written on there that for each specific person that he decided to give to at that moment. And one person got one, and the crowd was looking. They were like, "Oh," they're all excited and stuff. And the person was like, "Oh," they were clapping. And I said, "Oh, I want one," but I didn't say anything, and I just continued to follow wherever he went. I followed, and so we got to this convenience store, and I ended up in the front of the group. And I looked back, and everybody was kind of standing back a little bit, like I was like kind of singled out. I don't know how it happened, but it just happened. And he walked a few steps in front of me, and he walked to this shelf, and he turned and he grabbed something from under this shelf. It looked like toothpaste or something, like you wouldn't expect it to be there. But he grabbed this paper and he held it out in front of me. And I looked at it. It was a crown. It had dollar signs. And he lifted it up and he put it on my head. It turned into like a real crown, and it had all these dollar signs on it. And he looked at me and he smiled at me and he said, "This is what's in your future." He said, "You must forget about your past. You must let go of your past." And he said, "This is what I have for you in your future." He said, "Don't worry about the things that happened to you in the past. You must let go and look forward." And I was like, "Oh, Jesus." I was like, "Wow." I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. And it was like, it was prosperity, but it was beyond just finance. It was like an abundance of peace and joy and all the things that I had been without for some time, just because of what happened, just the circumstances of life kind of robbed me of those things. At least I allowed them to rob me of those things. And so I was just overjoyed, and I didn't jump up or anything. I kept it all in here, treasured it all right here in my heart. And the look that he gave me is, I've never gotten a look like that before in my life, and I probably never will, because no man has ever looked at me, no man could ever look at me like that. Gentlemen, if a woman were to look at you, it would not even compare to the way that he looked at me. This was a one-of-a-kind, special gift that I'll always treasure in my heart. It was like a look, it wasn't lust or seduction, it was a look of love, pure, genuine, sincere love, care, and concern for me. And like what he said to me was as good as gold. He was going to keep his word and do exactly what he promised to do for me. And so he looked at me, he said a couple more things, he smiled at me, and then he turned around and walked away. And so I'm taking this all in, everybody's rushing past me, and I was like, "Oh wait, let me follow him." So we all followed down we ended up at the bottom of the facility where this lady worked. She did all kind of decorating for the facility. She had like an innate gift to do these things. She never went to school for it. And her husband came to pick her up, but he was like, "Oh, Jesus wants you to take him somewhere? You go with Jesus. When you're done, I'll come back. I don't get in Jesus' way." He said, "You do whatever you have to do. You go with him wherever you have to go, and I'll be back." And she's like, "You got it." Like, "Jesus, where do you want to go? I'm ready to take you." Because Jesus wanted her to take him somewhere, to different places and do different things. He had gifted her with just natural, beautiful things that she could do. So we kind of all dispersed. The crowd left. We went back, and I was going to tell my mom and sister, but before I could tell them, I ended up where they were. Before I could tell them, my friend came back with her mom, and then I said, "Are you okay? You really don't look well." And then before she could say anything, she said, "I," and then she passed out. And we were like, "Oh, Jesus!" And then some of the people gathered around, and my sister lifted her head and put her head in her lap, and they were trying to get her pulse, and there was no pulse. She died right in front of us. It turned out she had had cancer and hadn't told us, and she ended up dying right then and there. And we were like, oh my Lord! And I was like, no, she has a child she has to take care of, and she's our friend. We can't let this happen. And people were worried, and they were like, call 911. Someone said, call 911. Let's call the paramedics, and they were gonna get help from like someone within the facility while they waited. And so I was like, wait, no. I said, Jesus was just here. I know where we can take her. If we can get her to Jesus, she's going to be okay. So they were like, Jesus? I said, yes, he was here. He was just walking here with this crowd. So we got a few of us together. Some men lifted her up, and they were carrying her. But as we went through the facility, like each place, I kind of tracked our steps back to where we had gone. He wasn't there. And so the crowd started to walk away. People were like, this is pointless. This is, just forget it. And then so we ended up with like 4 or 5 of us down at the bottom of the facility where we were. The lights were out. The room was warm, like he had just been there. And so we got ready to go, and I was like, no, we got to go all the way back up, and we got to find a way to we're going to get in the car, and we're just going to drive and look for them. Before I could, I turned to walk, these ladies had found an SUV, and there was this huge glass wall, and they took this SUV and drove it right through the glass wall. And I'm like, oh no, the bill, we're going to have this huge bill. And they were like, don't worry about the bill, hop in the car. And I was like, okay. So I hopped in the car, and we put my friend in, and we drove to this service station. And there was this elderly gentleman, and we didn't even have a chance to say anything. We rolled the window down, and he said, you're looking for Jesus, aren't you? And we were like, yeah, how'd you know? And he's like, if you take this road here, you make a right, and you take this road here, and you stay on the road, it's going to wind around this way, it's going to wind around that way, but just stay on the road, and you'll find him. So we're like, great, cool, okay. So the driver turned, and we're driving, till we drive out of the city. And then we drive to this barren wilderness where there's hills, there's just hills all around, but there's nothing else. And I'm like, well, this isn't looking like, we're going to find him. Like, what's going on here? Sure enough, we drive to the point where there's like a dead end, and it was like literally like a U-turn. You'd have to make a turn around and come back and go back towards the city. And we're like, I don't get it. I got out of the car and I said, I don't get it. This doesn't make any sense. We went exactly the way the man told us to go, but I don't see anything. This does not make any sense at all. What's going on here? And then there was a guardrail right there, and I put my hands on the guardrail, and I was like, and I was looking off in the distance, and I looked, and there was this hill like made out of solid rock. And I saw a man's face carved into the rock. And I said, wait a minute, that looks like the face of Jesus. And I said, I think that's Jesus. And I looked at it, and then the people were like, where? The ladies, they were all ladies, we were like, where? And then I said, right there. And as soon as I said that, the rocks started to crumble on the hill, and the whole hill transformed from the face to the shape of his image. And he was walking. He took several steps. There was no way he could have walked. In real life, no one could walk over the way the little valley was and the hills right there. But he came to me instantly. And he smiled, and he said, you searched for me. He said, and you found me, and here I am. He said, now bring her to me. We didn't even tell him what we were there for. He already knew. He said, now bring her to me. And I was like, oh, yes. I was so happy, and we were overjoyed. And I was like, oh, he was here. I said, we couldn't see it, but he was here. And he was waiting for us, and we searched for him, and we found him, and he's here. It's all good now. He's going to take care of it now. And he was. And he smiled, and it's like all he wanted to know was that we were going to go and find him. And I realized, and I think it was told to me at that point, that Jesus is the end of the end. Death, in so many instances, seems like the end. But who's beyond the end? Jesus is the end of the end. It says in the Word of God that he is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. The end of what? The end of life, the end of all things. When you come to the end of yourself, when you're at the end of your rope and you're at the end of your situation and you can't go another step, just know that beyond your end is Jesus. He is the end of the end. And that's what that dream signified. And I thought about it yesterday, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. My God, thank you for reminding me about that, because I had such a down day yesterday, let me tell you. I just wanted to throw in the towel, and I was tired, and I was weary, and he reminded me of this dream. And there was actually a comment someone left me about they had a dream that they had $1 million. Did it happen? No. But I had a dream, that crown on my head, and I've had other dreams that I'm going to be very, very prosperous, and I believe it. You might not believe it, brother, but I pray that what you saw, maybe the Lord's showing you something that's yet to come to pass. And whether or not you believe it, I wish that you would. Maybe it's, like I say, a sign from the Lord, but I believe what he showed me, and I know that the best is yet to come. Don't you give up hope. Just know that Jesus is the end of the end. And with that, I want to bid you peace. Peace be with you. And you just stay precious because God has something great in store for you. Even in the midst of the chaos and things that are going on in the world and the things that are yet to take place, just know that God is in control and things will be all right for those who walk uprightly before Him. Take care. God bless you. Bye-bye.